Today is insane because we are starting the last episode of the ABC Reading Challenge, starting strong with Book Y. I actually was not supposed to start filming this until days later, but we hit 4,300 subscribers like 2 minutes ago. In that moment, I decided that I was going to, one, sit down and film this, but also film a subscribers to seconds to document that. And if you're a small creator, you get it, you understand. It's really, really cool to just watch those numbers go up and watch years of hard work pay off. And yeah, that's just kind of where I'm at right now. I feel like I'm glowing. Actually, speaking of glowing, let's address my face. I did put some makeup on and I intentionally made the lighting less intense, but if you can't tell, my face is very pink and red right now. I am having a pretty bad allergic reaction on my face right now to a skincare product. Yeah, it's 100% my fault. I don't know why I didn't consider the fact that something that I'm allergic to that I cannot eat would be fine in a skincare product, and of course it was not, so I am suffering. By all means, what you actually want to know right now, which is, what were the honorable mentions of Y? It was between two books for Book Y, and I'll be 100% honest with you. The reason why we went with the book that we did was because it was on sale. Also, the premise just sounded really fascinating to me. We almost read Yellowface. We did not read Yellowface. I really want to read that one, and if I don't read it this year, I'll definitely read it at the beginning of next year. But the book that was on sale that I've had my eye on is You May Now Kill the Bride by Kate Weston. This may surprise some people because I've never been the biggest fan of murder mysteries, but recently, and by recently I mean like the last two that I've read in the last couple months, have been 5-star reads. Dare I say I'm becoming a murder mystery girly. All I know about this book is that it's like the bride gets murdered and all the bridesmaids are suspects, and that's all I really know about it. So there's only one good way to kick off this video. Reading a second for every subscriber I have on my booktube channel, day 23. I currently have 4,300 subscribers, which means today we're reading for 1 hour, 11 minutes, and 40 seconds. Although my skin started to get worse and worse and hurt more and more, I did end up making it through the entire subscribers to seconds challenge, although I almost decided to take a break a couple times. But I did finish and I completed the whole challenge, and I am now on page 83, Chapter 12. I am thoroughly enjoying this. It's definitely the first adult murder mystery that I've enjoyed. I feel like usually I only enjoy murder mysteries that are YA because I feel like sometimes the drama of a YA just like makes the murder mystery element a lot less dark. But I'm thoroughly enjoying this for a couple reasons, but some of the ones that just like come off to the top of my head is it wasn't an over-the-top murder. Like, it was actually pretty realistic. That sounds so dark and scary. Sometimes you read these murder mysteries and it's like you expect me to believe that someone who's never murdered someone in their life thought of that outlandish and morbid of a murder, but like this is quite literally a crime of passion type murder. Like, it's just very clean cut. It is what it is. I'm just really sucked into this right now. I'm about, I'd say, a little under a third, probably about a quarter way through the book. And if it weren't for the fact that I need to go to bed like right now, I would really keep reading. This just feels so down to earth. Like, it's not outlandish, but it's also not underwhelming. Like, I'm very invested. Let's flash forward to a couple days later. Listen, last we chatted, I was having an allergic reaction to a skincare product. When I tell you the last 2 to 3 days were so bad, for those of you who may be thinking I'm dramatic, and it was just like bad acne for a couple days, my face was covered in blisters. I'm wearing more makeup now than I've worn since probably my wedding day 2 years ago, just to like cover some stuff, and it is healing now. But guys, it was so bad that my entire face was literally one giant scab, like covering my lips from like my forehead to like halfway down my neck was just a one giant scab, and it hurt. It burned. My face felt like 100 degrees, and I'm trying so hard not to touch it. Yeah, there's my little sob story. This is the last stinking episode of the ABC Reading Challenge, so I still want to finish this strong. So here's what we're gonna do. I did read a couple chapters here and there, and I did read a good chunk one morning while getting ready before I decided to take a break, just so that I didn't read like the entire book while not vlogging. So I'm currently on page 192 and chapter 30 of this book. And it's technically more like half, but that's because I do want to finish reading this book in a subscribers to seconds challenge, just because I had like a very big burst of subscribers between now and when I started reading Book Y. So I do think it would be a fun like full circle moment to film another one and finish this book. That being said, let's talk about this book because I have so many thoughts. I'm like starting to understand more and more and more that the bride who died actually was like a horrible person. But here's the thing. Every single one of the bridesmaids and like all the bride's best friends are also horrible people. Something that keeps being referred to in the book is that they all had this secret, right? And it's kind of what kept them together. Very similar to Pretty Little Liars. There's like that one secret, you know, that keeps them glued together and why they can't really go to the police on certain things, right? Where was I going with that idea? Oh yeah, so now we're doing a lot of flashbacks and I feel like we're getting closer and closer to finding out like what that big secret is. Honestly, at this point, this better be the most insane and biggest secret ever or I'm gonna be so annoyed. Also, think Pretty Little Liars, but they're all in like their 30s and every single one of them is an ally. And they're all horrible, they're all self-serving, they're all extremely selfish. Like the entitlement is a lot. Now, here's the reason why that isn't ruining the book experience for me. One, it's making it really hard to know who the murderer is because they're all so horrible that I think they're all perfectly capable of having murdered the bride. The second thing is that on the back of the book, it literally says that the author wanted you to hate every single one of these bridesmaids. Like, they're supposed to be angering. I believe the exact words are, the bridesmaids are people you will love to hate. And trust me, I am loving hating on them, but they're kind of stressing me out. That's my little rant. Very excited to see who's the killer. Reading 1 second for every subscriber I have on my booktube channel, day 24. I currently have 4,600 subscribers, which means today we're reading for 1 hour, 16 minutes, and 40 seconds. By the end of the subscribers to seconds video, I had about 20 or so pages left, so I did just take a minute once the cameras were off to just finish the book and then edit and post. And now I'm ready to talk about the book and then move on to book Z, but I am kind of in a rush. I'll tell you why in a second. But let's talk about You May Now Kill the Bride. Add it to the chart. We're gonna give it 4 stars. It was really good. I absolutely loved it. The only thing is that there were so many elements to this book that just weren't my favorite, which is why it's not a 5-star. But as for plot, I genuinely enjoyed it. I like how there was a big reveal, and then there was a reveal after the reveal, and a reveal after the reveal after the reveal. Like, in my opinion, the best kind of mystery books have like layers of reveals at the end. My only complaint is that if a book spends the entire book building up to a dramatic reveal, I don't love when they make it a little bit obvious right before it's revealed. You know what I mean? I love when it's just like, who did it? Who did it? Who did it? Boom, this person did it. But it felt more of like a who did it? Who did it? Maybe it's this person. Yeah, it was them. Like, I don't really like that as much. I want to gasp. I want to have to put the book down and process what I just read. I want to be floored. With each of the reveals, a couple pages before the reveal, I was like, oh, so it's this person. And then it was just confirmed a couple pages later when it was like revealed. So that was a little annoying, and I get like the author does that because some people do like to figure it out and they get a sense of gratification for figuring it out before it's revealed, but I'm just not that way. Like, I want to be totally shocked. So that's just like a personal preference thing, so 4 stars. Now, as for book Z, this is not like most of the books I've read, and I'm a little interested to see how this one turns out. It is 0 stars, do not recommend. This is a comedy about a man who goes on a vacation during the apocalypse. That's all I know. That could also be a very inaccurate description, but I have nothing to compare it to, at all. So I'm very interested to see how this goes. It is, however, gonna start getting dark in an hour, sadly, because we had daylight savings and it's winter now, and now it gets dark at like an insanely early time. So I'm going to start reading this book on my phone and take Soka on a walk until the sun starts to set, and then we can chat. I started reading the book on the walk, and honestly, I was hooked from the first sentence. So as soon as I got back inside the house, I immediately just sat on the couch and kept reading with my dog until I got hungry. And that is where everything went wrong. Let's just say I got in a fight with a kitchen knife, and the kitchen knife won. And it was very scary. I was low-key a baby about it, and I had to call my husband and cry about it, and it still hurts. I don't feel like reading anymore tonight. And I know that's a pathetic reason to take a break for the rest of the night, but we're gonna do what Ruby needs to do for Ruby's mental health. Let's talk about why I was so glued to it that I was being careless with a knife so that I could get back to the book as soon as possible. I am at the 44% mark. I know that's probably like, whoa, you were sitting on the couch reading for a long time. I don't think I really was. I honestly think I'm just reading this book crazy fast, or maybe time just flew, because I also kind of was like, whoa, I hit 44%. Like, it seemed like a lot in a short amount of time. I'm just really sucked into this book. Let me backtrack on something I said earlier, because my assumptions about the book were slightly inaccurate. So it's not that there's an apocalypse and this dude goes on vacation. He's on vacation when the apocalypse starts. They're on this like special island, I think in the Bahamas or something, and he took his girlfriend there for like a fun trip. The sun just like disappears while they're there. And sure enough, it's chaos. So for whatever reason, when the sun exploded, all communication, all internet, all everything in the island just shut down. So they're basically isolated from the rest of the world. And the craziest part is that like everything's fine the first day, and then things get kind of crazy overnight. There are 3 different buildings in the same resort, and depending on like what experience you paid for, determines if you were in building A, B, and C. The rich people in building A have decided that they're gonna buy off the staff and basically keep living like they're in a resort, but they also basically become the government, and they force everyone in buildings B and building C to ration their food and work, and there's like a bajillion other things, but this is spoiler free, so I'm not gonna jump into that. But it's literally like Lord of the Flies, but modern day. And it's honestly kind of wild. Did you want to come say hello? Come here. Soka has joined the party. Can you sit at least? This is kind of awkward. Yeah, that's all I guess I can really say without spoilers. But it's about a guy who goes to this island with his girlfriend. And then on the second day of vacation, the apocalypse starts, and it's basically the Lord of the Flies. I think the funniest part in all of this, the person who kind of assumes the role of running the show and basically dictates how everything goes, and we'll just say right now, she's a dictator. She is a CEO of a pyramid scam company, and it is the funniest thing ever because they're tapping into all of the hysterical stereotypes of that. So I'm thoroughly enjoying it. Honestly, I wouldn't necessarily call this a comedy, although there are elements of comedy. I wouldn't call this a romance, but there's elements of a romance. This book has a little bit of everything. Honestly, it's a little stressful, so like as much as I'm enjoying it and I'm sucked into it and I think it's really engaging, the main reason I want to take a break from it is because it is really intense. I feel like oftentimes with these Lord of the Flies-esque books, or if you haven't read that, another good example is like the Hunger Games, right? There is an unjust system, and the people that you're rooting for are victims, and it doesn't seem like there's any possible way to like overthrow that system, and you just kind of feel hopeless. And so like reading that isn't exactly like all the fun, happy, cozy vibes. Yeah, I think I'm gonna take a break, but don't worry, we're gonna reconvene and continue reading in the morning. See, I just needed some puppy cuddles. After sleeping until a shameful hour, I am officially at like the 70-ish% mark of my book. I must say, I'm loving it, but it's so stressful. Like, it's a comedy, yes, and it's a very like silly book in so many ways, but at the same time, maybe it's just because every single time something happens, I have to ask myself, like, well, what would have done in that scenario? And I think that's why I'm really struggling to read this, because I was like, oh my word, I would probably be just as horrible. Not as the pyramid scheme lady, but like the main guy, Daniel is his name. And oftentimes I read what Daniel's doing and I want to judge him, but at the same time, I'm like, I think I'd be the same way. Like, his girlfriend is quite literally so amazing, and her humanity is so intact when everyone else is going crazy, and she's still just like the most amazing human being. And he even has moments where he's like, what did I do to deserve someone this amazing? And as much as I'd like to wish that I'd be more like the girlfriend, I'm definitely more of a Daniel in this scenario. So love that for me. I am kind of like just in a funk today, in all reality. I didn't even bother to like put makeup to cover up my skin. It is healing a lot better, so I figured like not putting makeup on it and just letting it heal would be the best thing in the long run. I think something about just staying in bed till noon really just did something to my brain, because I'm a morning person and I'm usually out and about and like at the latest by 8 a.m. So we're gonna try our best to catapult myself out of a funk, and the best way I know I can do that is taking my dog on a walk. Also, it's gonna be rainy for the next couple days, so I would like to get a nice big walk in before she's a shut-in like me for the next couple days. So I'm loving this book. It's close to a 5-star for me. Obviously, it's gonna depend on how this all ends. I don't even necessarily have a theory, because I could see it going any way at this point. And obviously, I won't tell you what way it goes because that's a spoiler, but I'm just gonna read on a walk, and then whatever I don't finish on the walk, I'll just curl up on the couch and we can talk about it.
Every minute slipping by, even when I close my eyes, ruthless I know. You might even
The ending of that book put me through an absolute whirlwind, and I had an amazing time. I really loved it. Let's add it to the chart. 0 stars, do not recommend. 5 stars, I 100% would recommend that you read this book. I don't know how else to describe it. If you enjoy Ryan Reynolds movies, like Free Guy, I think is a perfect example. Like, the Free Guy movie had the same exact vibes as this book. It just has like such a randomness, such good comedic timing, and it's so odd but so fascinating at the same time. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I flew through that book. Wow. I think this is one of those books that's really going to stick with me, and I'm going to recommend it to like anyone who's interested. That was a phenomenal book. It just hit me. That was book Z of the ABC Reading Challenge, a reading challenge we've been doing for months. I am excited now to shift more into like my winter and Christmassy books TBR. If you want to know what those books are and hear my reviews on them, you should definitely subscribe and stick around. And of course, if you're interested in watching any of the other episodes of the ABC Reading Challenge, you can find them in my Reading Challenge playlist.